Words. Words have the power to change the world. Words have the power to unite or divide us. They are sang, written, screamed, and felt. They overcome silence with a meaningful sound. They make you think, act, and dream. They tell stories that never happened and promise dreams that will. Words are your voice, your power to change. They are the triumph over the silent monotony of a joyless life. They are ideas and aspirations. And a single word is an action. And it does matter. Be the writer. Tell your story. Share and help me to tell mine.
Now that we know that our words have power, let's review our first milestone, the understanding we want to have in the next few weeks. An expanded vocabulary enhances a person's ability to express ideas and information clearly and succinctly. And we're going to be working in this lesson and many others to gather evidence to construct a response to this question: how does an expanded vocabulary enhance a person's ability to express ideas and information clearly and succinctly? Now, with all of this, we're working towards the standard of acquiring academic vocabulary and thinking about how it helps us understand grade level texts. So where are we headed with today's lesson? We're going to ask this question: what kind of vocabulary will I read, speak, and write? Then by the end of this lesson, you'll be able to define and give examples for academic vocabulary, general academic vocabulary, and domain-specific academic vocabulary. First, let's take a look at the term academic vocabulary. Academic vocabulary is the language that you encounter in textbooks or on standardized tests and other assessments. So basically, academic vocabulary will be the words we use in school or school-related words. So now that we have talked about academic vocabulary and we've read the definition, what do you think of first when you hear the words academic vocabulary? What comes to your mind? Pause the video and take a few minutes to jot down your thoughts in the question below. So we know more about academic vocabulary, the words we use in school, textbooks, assessments, and in class. We're going to break down academic vocabulary into two smaller categories. The first one is going to be called general academic vocabulary. And these are the words that you're going to hear in all of your subjects many times, frequently used. They're general academic vocabulary that we use everywhere in our school. The second type is a smaller category called domain-specific academic vocabulary. These are words that you mostly hear in math. They'll be the math domain vocabulary words. And then there are certain words that you might mostly hear in science, and they're going to be the science domain specific academic vocabulary. And each of your subject areas has terms that are very specific to that area of study. They're called domain specific academic vocabulary words. Before we take a look at specific examples of each of these categories of academic vocabulary, let's remember that academic vocabulary is the language we use in school. They're the words that we read, speak, and write. General academic vocabulary would include words used in all of our classes. So there are words like accumulate, benefit, challenge, decision, confirm, and distinguish. You might even hear your homeroom coach talk about accumulate when you're accumulating your points for the quarter. Then there are domain-specific words. These are words only used in a subject area or mostly used in a subject area. They're words like context clues, denotation, connotation, synonyms, antonyms, multiple meaning words. Can you take a guess as to what subject area would use these domain-specific vocabulary words? If you were thinking ELA, you're right on track. These are words, both general and domain-specific, that we're going to define in the weeks ahead. All right, let's put our knowledge into action and look at an example of some academic vocabulary. This science question up here is going to give us general academic vocabulary and domain-specific academic vocabulary. Follow along and listen as I read out loud. Which scientific tool do you think is the most important or has had the greatest impact on the development of scientific inquiry? Okay, let's take a look at the general academic vocabulary first. What I noticed was this phrase here, most important. We see that on a lot of things. What's the most important characteristic? Or we might even hear least important. When we're asked to compare things, we might do that in any subject. Also this word impact. You might hear that in more than one subject area. And then I was thinking of the word development. I know that there can be character development. I know that there can be cultural development over time. I know that there's muscle development when we're talking about PE. So that word development is going to go in general academic vocabulary because that's a word that we might use in more than one subject area. Now, let's take a look at domain-specific vocabulary. Remember, this is just for the science subject area. So when we look at domain-specific vocabulary, did this pop out at you? Scientific tool has the word science right in it, right? A tool in science might look a little bit different than a tool in math. Well, you might hear that word. This is specifically for the scientific domain because it's a scientific tool. Also, I was taking a look at this phrase here, scientific inquiry. Now, we might see inquiry in other classes, but scientific inquiry is most used in science. So that goes under domain specific. It's particular to that subject area. So we have academic vocabulary, words that we use in school. We have our general academic vocabulary, what we're going to be using across all subject areas, and then domain specific vocabulary, what you're going to use in one subject area, most likely. We did an awesome job with that science question. Now let's take a look at math. I want you to read the math question to yourself as I read it out loud. Which table represents a relationship that has a constant proportionally equal to 2/3? Now I'm going to challenge you to take a look at that question on your own. Determine what's general vocabulary in this question, words you've seen in many subjects, and what's domain specific. Means just the words related to math most often. I want you to take a minute, pause the video, and submit your thoughts to the question below. Okay, hopefully you've paused the video and submitted your answers. Let's look and see if we were thinking the same thing. Which table represents a relationship? In reading that part of the question, I found two general vocabulary words, represents and relationship. We use the word represents in English or language arts when we're talking about symbolism, and we use the word relationship when we're talking about the relationship of characters to each other or the relationship of words within a sentence or paragraph. So I know there's at least two subject areas that we use those words in. Keep an eye out for those two words, represent and relationship, as you're in your other subject areas such as social studies, science, music, art, and PE. Secondly, we're going to look for that domain-specific vocabulary. Remember, this is a math question, so we're going to be looking for words used mostly in math class. I was thinking of this word constant. Now, we might see this word sneaking into other classes, but this is a pretty big math-specific vocabulary word, and your math teacher will be able to tell you a lot more about that constant. And proportionally, again, these words might sneak into other subject areas, but you're going to see it most frequently when it comes to math class. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the lesson. Let's review our objectives. Remember this question: what kind of vocabulary will I read, speak, and write? You should be able to define and use these terms. Academic vocabulary. That's the vocabulary that we read, speak, and write in school. Then there's general academic vocabulary and domain-specific academic vocabulary. If you're still unsure of the definitions and how these terms are used, you can go back and review the lesson or see me during office hours. You'll be practicing these terms again in Check for Understanding activities, and we'll be talking about them in class.